Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this presentation on health and disability at university. My name's Chloe. I work for Higher Horizons Plus, which is part of the UniConnect programme, and I'm based at the University of Chester. So all universities have an access and participation plan, which means that when you apply to university, your university should give you all of the help that you need to succeed. Because as far as universities are concerned, everyone has the right to a rich, fulfilling and enjoyable university experience. This presentation is designed to hopefully ease any worries that you might have about managing your condition at university and give you an idea of who to turn to before you even go. It also gives you a chance to see what kind of help you can receive when you're there during your studies. So what is disability? According to the UK government, you're classed as disabled under the Equality Act 2010 if you have a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term negative effect on your ability to do normal daily activities. That is a mouthful, so I've decided to break that down for you. So it covers people with a physical disability, mental health condition, long-term health condition, or specific learning difference. Substantial means it takes longer to do some activities than normal, and long-term means it lasts longer than 12 months. So when you're applying to university, there are a few application forms that you're likely to do. These are the main ones, which is applying for your course itself, applying to student finance, and applying for accommodation. So when you apply to university, you do have the option to disclose your disability on your application form. But it's important to note that you don't need to do this. This is purely your whether you want to apply, whether you want to disclose this or not. So the benefits of disclosing this are that the university can put as much in place as you might need whilst you're studying. You'll also have additional supports, You'll also have access to additional support staff and additional services. I'm getting very tongue-tied this morning, sorry guys. And you may also be eligible for Disabled Students Allowance, which is extra money that you don't need to pay back. You might already have, through your education, an education healthcare plan, which is also called an EHC plan. That normally stops when you're around 18. However, you can ask the local authority to pass that information on to your university. So if yours does stop, the benefits of passing that information on are that your university will know what kinds of support you've had in the past, and that will help them determine what kind of support you might need in the future. Before you go, you can also already get support. So, for example, if you need help filling out that particular section on your application form, there should be a number that you can call and a member of staff will be able to help you. You can also contact Disability Services before you go for any of your potential universities, and you can either get an appointment with them before you arrive, or you can arrange to see them on something like an open day. And an open day is where you go and visit the university to see if you like it or not. So other things to consider when you're actually choosing a university can fit into sort of three broad categories. So that is location, accessibility and support staff. In terms of location, you might want to consider whether you want to be around your current support network. The chances are you'll develop another support network at university, but if you do want to be closer to family or your current friends or even your doctor, then you might want to consider looking for a university that does the course you want nearer to home, or you can choose to study by distance learning. Distance learning is where you get a degree through the university, but all of your work and exams and everything are done while you're at home. So another thing you might want to consider is accessibility. Now, there are lots of questions on screen and there are even more. It will depend on what condition you have. And the chances are you'll know your condition pretty well and you'll know what requirements you need. So don't be afraid to make a list of requirements that you need and to approach any potential universities that you apply for and actually ask these questions, because honestly, they are more than happy to help. When it comes to support staff, they're a huge part of your university experience and they are absolutely invaluable. And because of that, we're going to go through the specialist support staff and help that you can get a little bit later on in this presentation. So the next thing you might apply for is student finance. Now, student finance, you apply for 2 student loans, and one of those covers your university course fees and the other one covers your living. However, if you're classed as disabled, you might also be eligible for disabled students allowances. These are also called DSAs, and that's what I'm going to refer to them as throughout this presentation. So DSAs are extra money that you don't need to pay back to the university, and it's for support with your health conditions. It covers those with physical disabilities, mental health conditions, long-term health conditions, and specific learning differences. It can be used for things like non-medical helpers. So for example, if you would find it easier to concentrate in your lessons if someone else was taking notes, you can actually employ a note taker. It can be used for things like equipment, and that could be a laptop or it could be a digital recorder. Similar to a note taker, it would mean that you could record your lessons and listen to them back. It can be used for things like software. So if you find it easier to dictate your notes or your assignments to your computer, you can buy things like speech to text software, and your computer will listen to you and will convert that into text. And it can also be used for things like travel costs. So there are a few things to note when you are applying for DSAs. Firstly, the costs that you use the DSAs for have to be related to your condition in some way. You apply through student finance, and you can get more information about how to apply for DSAs online through the government website. It's also important to note that it's not based on your family's income. It is purely needs-based, which means that if you do come from a household that does earn a little bit more money, so for example, you might not get as much loan as other people, it doesn't affect your DSAs whatsoever. You will still get what you need and you still don't have to pay it back. It will also change whether you want to study full-time, part-time or distance learning, so that's also something to consider. So lastly, if you decide to live away from home and live at university, you'll be applying for student accommodation. There are a few things to think about when you do look for student accommodation. So firstly, location. How close do you need to be to where you're studying? For example, if you have mobility considerations and you might not be able to walk long distances, you might want to find a university accommodation that is close to where you're going to be studying, where you're taught, and where you are going to be spending most of your time. Price as well will affect, so will the price of the accommodation be covered with your student loan? You might want to think about whether you want, whether you're happy with shared bathrooms or whether you want your own bathroom, if you'd be more comfortable with that. Do you need an accessible room? So for example, if you use mobility aids like a wheelchair, standard university accommodation won't cater for that. However, in each standard block, there will be accessible rooms, and they're usually on the ground floor as well. So also think about maybe fire safety precautions. So on the off chance that you are a wheelchair user and you're not situated on the ground floor, Do the university have refuge points, or do they have an evac chair and a trained person that can use that? If you have a hearing impairment, do they have flashing fire alarms, and what other situations do they have in place in order to help you get out in the event of a fire? And lastly, another thing to note, if you do have a living carer and you'd like to take those to university with you, many universities do have the option of having a room next door as well for your living carer. So if that is something that you need, again, shop around the different universities, ask the questions, and you'll be able to find some that will accommodate that. So lastly, think about your length of stay. So for example, most universities, quite a lot of their rooms, they rent them out during during holiday time. So that means that you actually leave your university during the holidays. I didn't want to do that. Packing up and leaving every time we had a holiday felt very intimidating to me. So I actually made sure that I found accommodation that I could live in all year round. So now that we've gone through all of those 3 application forms, there are loads of information on the internet, and I will share a link with you for something that's quite substantial that will be able to help you as well. Lastly, we're going to talk about student support services. So as I said before, student support services are hugely useful to every student in a university. They're integral to your experience, and they do have specialist staff in different areas. So it might be called something slightly different in each university. There could be student services or student support, something like that, but they all have relatively the same function. So it can be broadly split into these 5 categories. So they'll have disability services, mental health services, wellbeing support, study support, and welfare support. So in terms of disability services, there will always be a disability advisor who is a named person who is aware of the kinds of support that students with disabilities might need. They can put the correct adjustments in place for anyone who declares a disability. They can plan with you about how best to support you at university, and they can write this into what's called a learning support plan or an individual learning plan. They can help you talk to your lecturers and other support staff about the kind of support that you might need. They can talk you through applying for disabled students' allowances if you haven't already. And they can signpost you to other external agencies outside the university. So we also have mental health services. Now, in each one of these, you'll have mental health advisors who are trained professionals and will give you information, advice and guidance on mental health concerns. There are also trained counsellors as well, so if you feel like you need to talk through any concerns that you do have, you can get an appointment with some trained counsellors. There's also a mental health charity, Student Minds, who are very active throughout the UK, and they work with staff and students to improve mental health at universities. Wellbeing support. There's general wellbeing support in most universities, and they offer general advice and guidance on anything that is affecting your studies. And they can also refer you to the specialist staff we talked about for more targeted support. They often organise projects and programmes and events that are focused on enhancing your wellbeing, and they're held throughout the year, and they often are aligned to different aspects of university. So for example, if you are going through exams, they might put something on like these therapy dogs at the Sheffield University to help you relieve exam stress. There's also peer mentoring schemes, and these are usually other students who are employed as peer mentors, and they can help you talk through any worries or issues you might have, and they'll use their own experience to help you throughout your university. It makes you feel part of the community from the very start, and you can also become a peer mentor yourself. Study support. Study support, or study skills as it's also called, is available for every student, and they help you with things like academic writing, research and referencing skills. So if you do have a specific learning difference, they are trained in this and they can help you with any specific additional needs that you might have. And if you suspect that you have a specific learning difference, so for example dyslexia, they can also help you access a diagnostic assessment. All universities also have assistive technology, and that can include things like adjustable desk, speech-to-text software, screen readers, coloured overlays, and anything that you can think of. You can also go to the library and they can help you access materials for your research in different formats. So for example, if you need large print or you need things in a CD format for screen readers. You can also purchase assistive software with your personal computer with your DSA money, and the university will be able to advise you on the best software to get for that. Lastly, we have welfare support. So welfare support is essentially the health, happiness and safety of students. It broadly fits into medical and safety. So, for example, all universities have trained first aiders, trained mental health first aiders, and in your first week at university, they'll advise you about where to access GP services. So some universities will tell you where the local GP services are, or some universities even have doctors who are actually part of the university. In terms of security, there are always security staff on campus, and again in the first week of university you'll receive a number for any emergencies and you can call them 24 hours a day. There's always a safeguarding officer, so if you do have any safeguarding concerns you will be aware of who that appointed person is. And many universities also have locked buildings, so people can't access them unless they actually have a university card. It's important to note as well that in some larger accommodation blocks, they do have security guards in those as well. So if you feel safe in knowing that there will be a security guard to refer to for any issues, then you can approach the university when you're applying for your accommodation. So that is a really brief overview of this presentation. We've gone through what's classed as a disability, and we've gone through applications and what to consider in terms of applying to your course, applying for DSAs and applying for accommodation. And we've also gone through the kinds of specialist student support that you can get. Like I said before, you don't need to tell your university about your health condition or additional need, but if you do, your university can put as much support in place as you might need. Okay, so that's all from me. Is there any questions? I'll stop sharing my screen now.
We do have some questions that have come in. So someone has asked, can I organise this support before I actually start my course?
Yes, absolutely. So the university is really happy if you want to approach them. So all you need to do is go to Student Services and ask them any questions that you might need, and they'll get you in touch with all of the specialist staff. So before you even move to university, you'll already be aware of who those staff are and what kind of support that you can get.
Fabulous. We also have a few questions about being a bit nervous. So the first one is, I'm nervous to ask for help at university. Will the support be easy for me to find?
Yes, definitely. So it's really, really normal to be nervous. I was incredibly nervous when I went to university. But the student support is a really big part of any university. It's usually an entire department and it consists of a lot of staff. So all you need to do is you can ring even the switchboard number at any university or send an email and they will put you in touch with the right person. So honestly, I would say get in touch with the university before you go, because they can help you with any kind of nerves that you might have.
On a similar note, someone has said, I suffer from anxiety and worried about living with new people. What advice can you give me?
So I was actually in a very similar situation. I do suffer with anxiety and panic attacks. And when I went to university, living with other people was a very scary prospect for me. But what I can say is that a lot of people are in the same boat. From my own experience, I can say that everyone else I lived with was actually just as nervous as I was, whether they suffered with anxiety or not. And I would say that if you are nervous, the best thing to do is talk to people. You can talk to student services. You could get counselling in place straight away if you wanted to. So if you speak to them and say that you would like to have counselling as soon as you get to university, they'll be more than happy to help you put that in place. I would also say consider whether you, how much you think this will affect your studies. So if you think that it will affect your studies in a huge way, maybe think about going to university nearer to home, for example, so that you can go home whenever you want to, or even live at home. You don't have to actually live at university. But I would say that your anxiety is very real and very difficult, but there are plenty of people that will help you get through it, and rest assured, everyone will be just as nervous.
On the counselling that you've mentioned, is that something that's free, or is that something that you pay for with your allowance?
From what I know, it is usually free at every university that offers that service. If they don't, which I so far haven't found a university that doesn't offer that service, what they'll do is they will actually refer you to an external agency. And yes, you can pay that through your DSA, or they might refer you to a charity, for example, who also offers that service for free. So it's really about approaching the university and asking those questions.
Perfect. Another question that we have, I have a disability but think I'll be okay. Do I have to tell them about the disability?
No, you don't. It's completely a personal choice about whether you decide to do that or not. And it's also important to note that even if you do declare a disability, it doesn't mean that you actually need to use the services that are offered to you. So, for example, when I went to university, I did declare a disability. However, I never had disability support allowance because I didn't feel like I needed it. And it wasn't until the third year that I actually used any of the student support services that were actually on offer.
On a similar note about declaring, if I declare I'm a disabled student on my application to the university, will this change their decision?
No, not at all. Your application to a university is purely based on usually the grades that you get. Or some courses have things like interviews, and it's based on those answers for the interviews. But your disability cannot, by law, actually prevent you from going to university if you want to. So in the Equality Act 2010, it says that basically you have a fair chance from everybody, and they can't discriminate it based on your disability.
Excellent. Another question, will I get in trouble if my long-term illness impacts my attendance or grades or deadlines?
Again, not at all. So I can only speak from personal experience, but I did have a lot of extensions. I did have time off, especially in my third year. I actually extended my whole university for another 6 months because I wasn't going to make the deadline for actually finishing my university course. But all they do is if you've not had great attendance, they will probably approach you and ask you about it. but it's purely from a caring point of view because they want to know that their student is okay and doesn't need extra support. All you need to do is explain why you haven't had that attendance and they will be perfectly fine with that. If you do need extensions on deadlines, all you need to do is approach the tutor of that particular module or course and tell them that you need a deadline and they will extend it for you. On the odd occasion, you might need a letter from your GP services. Again, this is really easy to get. Just go to your GP and explain what's happening and they will write you a letter for your course tutors. So honestly, your university is designed so that they want all of their students to succeed. And no matter what barriers you might have in place for succeeding, they want you to do the best that you can. So they will do everything in their power to help you to succeed and get your university course done.
That's really great. So one last question before we wrap up. My parents are worried about me going far away. Can I go far away?
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely up to you where you want to study at university. If you want to go far away, I did. I went a completely different side of the country, and even I was a little worried about that because of my health concerns. But you know what, there's so much support at university, like I said, from staff, from other students. You will be supported no matter what. So probably the best thing to do is, if you do want to go far away and your parents are worried about them, is actually invite your parents to talk to student services and talk to them about all of the support that you do actually get. And I think that will help them alleviate any worries that they have just as much as it will for you.
Perfect. That's all the questions we have for today.
Brilliant. Well, I hope this has been really useful, and do get in contact with us at www.highhorizons.co.uk/ask. There are a team of advisors who will be able to answer any questions that you might have.